This program is brought to you by Rogers Xfinity, connecting you to more of what you love. Visit Rogers.com for more details. The opinions expressed in the following programs are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Rogers Cable or Rogers TV.
Ontario is heading to the polls on February the 27th. I'm Sam LaPrade. We'll be hosting a number of debates here on Rogers TV. Today we're starting with the ward of Carleton. We'd like to introduce two candidates to you today, and that is Brandon Bay and Shireen Faley. We did invite all candidates to attend today's debate. These are the two that took us up on the invitation. Welcome to the show today. Thank you so much for being at the debate today. We appreciate it very much. Brandon Bay from the Liberal Party and Shireen Faley, thank you so much for being here today. Brandon, we're going to ask you to start with your opening remarks.
Great, thank you, Sam. People in Ontario are worried, but this election is a chance to do better. You're worried about not having a family doctor, about how much it costs to build a good life these days. Housing, groceries, daycare. You're worried about American tariffs making it all worse, and Doug Ford says he's happy Trump won the election. I'm worried too. I've got a newborn at home. But there's reason for hope. I believe we can get through this together. As a housing advocate and a professional in health tech, I believe I'm well positioned to help fix the problems we face. And I believe our government needs to focus on getting the basics right. I'm Brandon Bay, and I believe Carleton deserves more. Only the Ontario Liberal Party will deliver more for you.
Shireen, your opening remarks, please.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Brandon. My name is Shireen Faley. I am the NDP candidate for the riding of Carleton. I am running to give you a choice for our riding. I know that, like the majority of you, I have fallen victim to the promises made by the PCs who have held the seat in this ever-changing riding for far too long. I am here to offer you a better option, a no-nonsense approach to addressing your needs in the wonderfully unique riding with a mix of rural communities and the newly more dense communities that we have. We need to acknowledge and hold Doug Ford and the PCs accountable for not delivering on their promises to reduce the middle tax bracket. He did not lower hydro rates. He did not give us health care. He did not support the needs of our seniors. I, with the support of the NDP, can make things easier on you and your families.
Thank you so much for those opening remarks. We have a number of issues and questions we're going to get to today. Each of the candidates, of course, an opportunity for them to speak to these issues. Healthcare is a top issue in this election, as the lack of family doctors, long wait times, overburdened emergency rooms are worrisome for Ontarians. How will you ensure the people of Ontario have improved healthcare? Brandon.
Thank you, Sam. It's a great question, and like you said, people are struggling to get care in this city, in this riding, in this province. Over 15,000 people in 2022 didn't have a family doctor in Carleton, and that's unacceptable. And the rate we've grown, that's a gross underestimate at this point. And the only reason we're in this situation certainly is because Doug Ford wants to be. The Ontario Liberals have a plan that will cost less than it costs to send everyone that $200 bribe check they just received and guarantee you a family doctor within the next 4 years.
Shireen.
Healthcare definitely is an issue. I agree with Brandon there. Doug Ford has been busy trying to open the Greenbelt, and he's been busy raising taxes in order for him to get his tunnel. I don't have a family doctor either. I recently learned that my daughter, when she turns 16, she won't have a family doctor anymore. So we need to put more money into healthcare. We need to be able to support and help our constituents who will need help in the future. We have mental health on the rise. We need to be able to have specialists that can help and address these concerns of our constituents.
Anything to add, Brandon?
Yeah, Shireen's issue finding a family doctor for herself is all too common a story in this province, and it's one that needs to be addressed immediately. And our plan to recruit, retain, and attract excellent family doctors in this province is going to make a big difference. But something that I'm excited about as a health tech professional too is that the Ontario Liberals have been listening to doctors and to individuals like myself and are excited to modernize healthcare and let doctors focus on patients instead of paperwork, about getting fax machines out of healthcare practices and building a centralized portal for patient records and referrals to ensure that things are moving smoothly and doctors can spend as much time focused on their patients as possible. We're also seeing the rest of the healthcare system failing too. It's not just doctors. It's nurses are struggling to receive the pay they want and work within the system, and they're feeling burnt out and leaving the profession early. And paramedics are spending an average of 800 hours a year with no ambulances available to attend to calls. They're just stuck waiting at hospitals, waiting to unload their patients, and the whole system is in shambles end to end under Doug Ford. This is something that needs to be addressed, and this is something that the Ontario Liberal Plan is so laser focused on getting the basics right in this province, including healthcare. Bonnie Crombie and I recently toured the Queensway Carleton Hospital, which is one of the ones struggling the most with the longest wait times in the province, and we can help address that here in Carleton by building things like a new health hub in Stittsville, which our party has promised to fund and which the city has been working hard to lobby the provincial government and ask for, and hasn't yet received that commitment. And so there's much that we can do in this province, and Doug Ford just hasn't been interested, but the Ontario Liberal Party will get it done where Doug Ford didn't.
Shireen, anything to add?
Well, I know that the Ontario Liberals have also had a chance to address the healthcare, but we still have long wait times. We're still waiting for specialists. We still are getting one push referred from one doctor to the next doctor to the next doctor. I'm still on a list to see a specialist myself. Not to bring it back to me, but that's the commonly what we hear is that the doctor that you see, you can ask one question and they might not address it. And that's an issue.
Last 30 seconds to you.
Sure. In the face of the tariffs we're facing from Donald Trump, there's a renewed sense of unity and patriotism within Canadians. We're once again feeling proud to be a part of this country, and Ontario Liberals will capitalize on this movement and offer an incentive to bring Canadian doctors feeling patriotic home to Canada to practice here to help fix Ontario's healthcare system.
Thank you so much, Shireen and Brandon. Shireen, recently, Ottawa's Mayor Mark Sutcliffe asked both the provincial and federal governments to step in with more funding for the capital's public transit system. What is your funding plan for Ottawa's LRT and the transit system?
Thank you, Sam. So for our transit issues here in Ottawa, the LRT's been in the works for quite some time, and even when they promised us that it would be fully working, we had issues because we don't have the right workers here. The trainers that were put on these trains to train the operators didn't know how to train. So there's definitely a misstep in how this is being managed. We will work with the city. We will work with our other parties and try and make everything run smoothly for our users that rely on these systems.
Brandon.
The transit system in Ottawa has certainly been through a lot of struggles we've seen, and it's a big problem, especially on the city's finances. We're spending billions of dollars on a transit system that's barely working, and we're going to be paying for it for many coming years. And it's not really fair to the people of Carleton, both because right now of our transportation tax dollars, for every one that's spent here in Ottawa, 18 is being spent in Toronto. And the Ontario Liberal Party will take ownership of Ottawa's LRT system to make sure that we can get our fair share of taxes spent at home in Carleton.
Shireen.
Yes, I think the PCs are looking to work with Metrolinx in the Toronto area, private firm. That wouldn't be good for us here in Ottawa, because anytime we have an issue that we need to address, we're going to have to rely on this third-party private company that won't really care for what we are suffering with here. There are a lot of seniors that rely on our paratranspo. We have a lot of students that rely on OC Transpo to get to and from school, to get to and from appointments. And the rise in the cost of this transportation and the lack of its availability is definitely an issue that the NDP will be working on with the city and ensuring that we are taken care of and that we have a strong, reliable transportation system.
Anything to add, Brandon?
Our infrastructure dollars are not being spent correctly across the board, and our plan to uplift the LRT will definitely help relieve some of that pressure. But it remains the case that for most people in Carleton, cars are the only way to get around, and transit is not a valid option in most parts of our riding for anything other than commuting to work downtown. That's going to continue to be true. Cars are the main way to get around, especially for our rural communities, and we're seeing underinvestment in their roads. We're seeing city councillors like George DeRuse, who's been promising to fix our roads for many years but couldn't even bother to show up for you today, not getting the job done. And while transit will relieve some of the pressure on vehicles, on congestion, by allowing other people living in denser communities like Riverside South, like Stittsville, to get around without a car and remove some cars off of the roads, we need investments in the infrastructure of all types for all kinds of transportation across the whole riding. And the Ontario Liberal government has proposed a Better Communities Fund that will fund both that kind of infrastructure and new housing without needing to tax new homeowners and without needing to put undue burden on cities and on regions like Ottawa and Carleton.
Shireen, anything to add?
No, I agree with Brandon. We in the rural areas often just rely on our one single road to get to and from the city, to and from the grocery store, our jobs, our schools, driving our children to school because there is no transportation for them. The infrastructure in the rural communities should also be addressed, especially when we're building all these dense communities within the rural communities that just add to the traffic in our single road highways or sideways. So we need to just ensure that the money is being spent properly and that we're not just claiming to do something, putting in taxes for ditches or whatever George DeRuse has been doing over there in Osgood and just focus on the needs. Thank you.
We know that, Brandon, Carleton is a very unique riding combination of obviously the agriculture community and people living in those communities. Talk to me a little bit about your focus on the agriculture communities and those farming the land.
Sure. Something I think that's hitting us uniquely hard in Carleton is the effects of climate change. And our farmers are feeling that disproportionately. You know, not only is it the derechos and the tornadoes that are ravaging the communities and leaving people without power for weeks on end, but it's the inconsistent extreme weather that's affecting their crop yields, that's hurting farmers' abilities to reliably grow the same things over and over every year. And we're seeing a lot of innovation within our agricultural system to meet and rise to those challenges, and that's something that I think Carleton has a great leadership and something that I would bring to Queen's Park to teach Toronto about how to best fight climate change in a way that helps our farmers and helps our budget.
Thank you so much, Shireen.
Thank you, Brandon. We believe in policies that support any local business, whether it's the farmer, whether it's someone just working out of their home office, cutting the hair on your dogs. What's important is to take a no-nonsense approach and bring things together. So we need to create partnerships. We need the public and private partnerships that can help connect workers with the in-demand skills, making our economy more competitive and our communities stronger so that they can rely on themselves and not have to look for support outside. We have way too many migrant workers taking over jobs that our local youth and constituents can.
Appreciate it. Brandon.
Like I said, there's a lot of leadership in our farming community. We're seeing pioneering techniques in both crop selection of choosing tomatoes that can withstand a wetter growing season, of vegetables that can withstand the droughts that we're seeing. These inconsistent weather patterns are really testing farmers, and they're rising to the challenge. We're also seeing new technologies introduced and expanded in their use, like hydroponic growing. We're seeing less soil even on the big agricultural lands that we've got available to us in Carleton. And this expertise is something we need to lean into, but we also need to make sure that we're offering opportunities for, like Shireen said, young people to grow into these professions and the other trades that are so important across the fastest growing riding in Ottawa. And that includes investment in our post-secondary education. Ontario's got some of the worst funding for education and lowest per student rate in the country right now. And we're seeing that affect our local communities greatly, that Algonquin College recently cut 37 programs and a large number of staff because there are no funds available, because tuition's frozen, because the provincial government won't provide any money, and because we've now capped international students, which was their last source of revenue. And we need to ensure that we are supporting the economy and our children to build a great future, to ensure that Carleton will continue to thrive going forward. And leaning into the expertise we have in the community and fully funding our education system are going to be two really important, essential pieces to doing that. And the Ontario Liberal Party remains focused on getting the basics right, including education, including climate policy.
Anything to add, Shireen?
In addition to the post-secondary education that Brandon has brought up, I think it's also important to give new pathways to our grade 11s and grade 12s, because some of them don't have the opportunity to take college courses or take post-secondary education, so we need to be able to offer them a pathway so that they can work on their family farm or work with their neighbor. Apprenticeship programs and training within the high school programs is also important to give it different opportunities and not just in post-secondary education.
Last time to you.
The Ontario Liberal government, the last time it was in power, had Ontario positioned as a leader in climate policy. We were the ones that ended coal power and cleaned the air to allow better growing across the province of all types. And we're going to focus on ensuring that going forward, we've got strong climate policy that protects our agricultural systems, that protects our farmers, and that focuses on making your life more affordable in addition to making our communities more resilient in the face of climate change. George Deroux denied and voted against the city's climate emergency. And under a Conservative government with Doug Ford and George Deroux, our farmers will not be protected.
Thank you so much. Shireen, we know that many parents are frustrated by the lack of school resources, the number of portables, the lack of teachers. How will you ensure the education system gets a passing grade for Ontario students?
Thank you, Sam. So what is important when we're looking at these, overcrowded schools is the fact that we're building a lot of new communities and we're not addressing the issues with the schooling and education. We used to be able to just walk to our schools or, had a couple of options. Now we don't. We're building houses, we're bringing people in, but we're not offering them the services they need within that community. So it's just bringing burden onto the existing services, which is not what we are looking to do.
Brandon.
Our education system is in crisis end to end right now. Last year in K-12 education, we saw more than $1,500 per student cut by the Ford government. And we're seeing teachers leaving the profession burnt out and underpaid. And we're seeing schools brand new needing dozens of portables to accommodate their student body. We're seeing students not receiving the best education they can possibly receive in Ontario anymore, and that hurts our future. If we don't provide a good education for our children, not only will we not have employees to sustain our economy going forward, but there won't be anyone to take care of us as we grow old. And Ontario's Liberals are committed to funding our education system completely, to supporting what matters most to you.
Sure.
Like Brandon said, the underfunding by the PCs to our education has definitely added extra strains to families, because now we have youth and persons who don't necessarily know what they should be doing with their time. We have families working extra hours so that they can pay for a tutor on the side because we don't have the right teachers in the classroom teaching our kids. My daughter was in a class and her math was being taught by her principal. That's not okay. What we need is skilled professionals, we need teachers, we need to invest in our education so that we can have our youth graduate with the proper knowledge and education to be able to thrive in our economy, especially now that it's in danger. How are we going to bring an economy up when we're not investing in our people. One of the bigger parts of an economy is the people that are within it. So we need to invest in them. We need to invest in our people, our children, our adults, our seniors who are making it go around.
Anything to add, Brandon?
I have a newborn son at home. He's 5 months old, and I'm worried about his future, about the schools in our community that he will eventually attend that are so overcrowded. We're opening a new high school in Riverside South this coming fall, and opening up Steve McLean Public School that my son will attend to more students as some leave to attend the high school. And there's already so many portable classrooms there, and it's going to expand even further as we add more students from our community, because we're not building our schools right. We're not building the right infrastructure to support our growing communities. Carleton has added 27,000 new residents since the last election, and continues to be the fastest growing region in Ottawa. And we're not building the infrastructure to support our children, our seniors, our young workers, our farmers, anyone at all. And the Ontario Liberal Party will get the basics right.
Shireen.
I'm just going to add that obviously we know that our education programs have been cut by the PCs on several levels. Doug Ford doesn't support the QP, which is a large union for our teachers. He did not reduce the classroom sizes, and he hasn't given us the economy that he hasn't given us the growth in the economy as promised. So with the NDP, we will put our money back into these communities. We will help support our economy.
Thank you so much. We're going to have 1 minute each for you to answer the next questions. These are big questions. They deserve more time, but today in this debate, they're going to get 1 minute. Homelessness and housing is a big issue in Ontario. Brandon, tell me how you would deal with that.
As president and chair of Make Housing Affordable, I've been working hard for the last few years to support housing policy and end the housing crisis, both for our most vulnerable residents in critical housing need and for the middle class, the young people who can't afford a home, who are feeling like not only is rent unaffordable, but home ownership is not even in their future anymore. It's just so unattainable. It's getting so hard to just work hard and build a good life in this province, which is all most people want. Ottawa's at 18% of its 10-year housing target after 3 years. We're halfway of where we should be to addressing this crisis. Doug Ford isn't getting housing built. Instead of building housing, we're seeing things like the billions of dollars in the $8 billion in the Greenbelt scandal, money wasted to fund his rich developer buddies. George Darouze and City Council last year raised housing taxes 4 separate times, and he didn't show up for you today to defend his record or get housing built. Ontario's Liberals will eliminate $76,000 in expensive taxes on new homes and help Carleton families immediately.
Shireen.
To help with the housing affordability, the NDP will establish Homes Ontario to provide grants, lower cost financing, public land, and other resources to help non-market and co-op housing options that will increase the supply of affordable non-market priced homes. Our plan will build or acquire 300,000 new units of housing over the next decade, making it more affordable housing accessible. Homes Ontario plan will also give back to building and the low-cost financing, public land, and other resources to help public, nonprofit, and co-op housing providers quickly increase the supply of permanently affordable non-market homes. Taken together, our plan to make housing affordable in Ontario will ensure that everyone can afford a good home in the community they choose to live in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Long-term care for our seniors is concerning for many families, including my own. They're facing very difficult choices for their loved ones. Where do you stand on care for seniors? I'm going to start with Shireen.
As your MPP, I will work with local seniors groups and our leaders to access all available grants. There's nothing more important than ensuring our seniors have accessible supports, whether that is in a home with a family member or if they choose to stay within the comforts of their own home. Whether they need a guardrail or a ramp, will help make that safe and secure and comfortable for them. I will be here for Carleton residents so that they can stay in the comfort of their homes, close to their family and friends, as long as they wish. We will provide the PC workers the public health workers that they need within the homes so that no one is left stranded or alone or neglected.
Brandon.
People are worried in Ontario, not just about needing a family doctor, but about what happens if they end up needing long-term care. Because we all saw a lot of media attention on long-term care facilities during the pandemic and saw the way they struggled, underfunded, understaffed, to keep up with the demand when things are tough. And things haven't really gotten better since then. There's just less attention because we've moved on from the COVID-19 pandemic. But we need support so that our seniors who need the most care can get it. And that's part of our healthcare plan, to fund senior care and make sure that everyone is living as healthy and as long as possible. But what seniors want the most is to stay at home in their own homes as long as possible and only move to care when they really need it. And we need infrastructure investments to support that so that people can stay healthy and stay living at home and relieve some of the pressures on the system so that those who need the most care have a bed available when they need it. The average wait right now is 8 months in this region for a long-term care bed, and that's unacceptable.
We'll have closing remarks now. Shireen, I'll ask you to go first.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Brandon. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. I wish George Roos was here, since this is kind of their election that they called. So I'm just going to touch on a couple of things here. We know that the PCs have cut our education programs. We know that they've made cuts in healthcare. We know that our seniors aren't being taken care of. We know that there's a rise in mental health issues. We know that our economy is on a crossroad here. We need a government that will address these issues. We need a government that will take the approach and include the people. We need to invest in education. We need to invest in healthcare. We need to invest in our own economy locally so that we can grow and feel comfortable and safe going into the future. We shouldn't have to fear what's coming next or what Trump throws at us. We shouldn't have to go back to work after we've already retired.
Brandon, your closing remarks.
Thank you, Sam. I'm running with the Ontario Liberal Party because the platform we've built is focused on getting the basics right. It's not about partisanship for me. It's about shared priorities and community values: respect, hard work, and compassion. The values that I was raised with and the values that my wife and I will raise our son with. I'm running to be your MPP because someone needs to stand up and show up for our families, because someone needs to show up for your health care, your cost of living, your future. If George Roos can't even show up today to this debate or to community events, how can you count on a Conservative like him to show up for you? We need a government that will focus on what matters most to you. That's why I'm running, and that's the Ontario Liberal promise. We'll deliver more for you. Doug Ford had 2 mandates to get it done, and he didn't. On February 27th, vote for a government that will get the basics right in Ontario: a doctor when you're sick, a roof over your head, and food on your table. Vote for Brandon Bay and for the Ontario Liberal Party. Thank you.
Thank you so much for our 2 candidates representing Carleton today. We did invite all candidates today's debate. Unfortunately, not everybody could make it, so we did have 2 wonderful candidates joining us today. I'm Sam Laprade, encouraging you to vote. Advanced polls are coming up very soon, so make sure to check those documents. Check the ontario.ca website for all of those details. Election Day, February the 27th. We encourage each and every one of you in Ontario to vote, get out, and let your voice be known. I'm Sam Laprade.
Connect with us by visiting our website or email us at comments@rogerstv.com.
I'm gonna get you once and for all, dog man. What are you waiting for? Buckle up!
Do you have car seat?
A what?
A kid's car seat.
You're a cloned cat sitting in a flying mechanical bug. They don't make a car seat for that. Let's do this.
You're invited to join us